I never thought the hardest decision of my life would be choosing myself. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was raised to believe that wanting anything for myself was selfish. I grew up in a family where expectations were never spoken out loud, but you felt them in every conversation. Every look, every disappointed sigh. My parents weren't cruel. They didn't yell or hit or threaten. They were calm, logical, and always right. And that somehow made it worse. From a young age, I learned how to read the room. I learned when to speak, when to stay quiet, and when to agree even if something felt wrong inside me. If I did what they wanted, the house felt warm. If I didn't, the silence was unbearable. My parents planned my life long before I understood I had a choice. Good grades, a practical degree, a respectable job, a stable future. They said it was love. They said they sacrificed everything for me, and I believed that meant I owed them my life in return. When I was 17, I fell in love with writing. Not essays, not homework, real writing. Stories, thoughts, confessions I never said out loud. I wrote late at night, hiding my notebook like it was something shameful. Writing made me feel seen, even if no one else ever read my words. I once made the mistake of showing one of my stories to my mother. She skimmed it for less than a minute before handing it back to me. She said it was nice but unrealistic. She said people don't build lives on dreams. She said I was too sensitive. That night, I tore the notebook apart. I went to college for a degree I didn't care about. I told myself it didn't matter. That adulthood was about responsibility, not happiness. My parents bragged about me to relatives. Everyone said I was doing so well, and I smiled because that's what I was good at. After graduation, I got a job that paid well enough to keep everyone satisfied. I moved into an apartment close enough to visit my parents every weekend. Every visit followed the same pattern. Questions about my job, subtle criticism disguised as advice, comments about how lucky I was. I started feeling tired all the time, not physically, emotionally. I woke up exhausted and went to bed feeling like I had failed at something I couldn't name. I felt guilty for being unhappy because from the outside, my life looked perfect. At 28, I had my first breakdown in a grocery store. I stood in the aisle staring at nothing, while my hands shook and my chest tightened. I thought I was dying. A stranger asked if I was okay. I lied and said yes. I didn't tell my parents. I knew what they would say, that I was dramatic, that I needed to be stronger, that everyone feels stressed sometimes. Instead, I started therapy in secret. For months, I danced around the truth. I talked about work, about stress, about feeling lost. And then one day, my therapist asked me a question that changed everything. Who are you trying so hard to be? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the truth was terrifying. I didn't know who I was without my parents' approval. Every choice I made was filtered through the same question. Will this disappoint them? The realization hit me slowly and all at once. My anxiety wasn't random. It was the result of years of ignoring myself. I started making small changes. I skipped a weekend visit. I said no without giving a long explanation. Each time felt like a crime. Each time the guilt almost crushed me. When my parents finally noticed, the confrontation was inevitable. They invited me over for dinner. The kind of dinner that feels like a meeting. Halfway through, my mother asked why I had been distant. My father watched me closely, waiting. My heart was pounding. But for once, I didn't back down. I told them I was unhappy. I told them I felt controlled. I told them I needed space to figure out my own life. The reaction was immediate. My mother cried. My father became cold. They reminded me of everything they had done for me. They said I was ungrateful. They said I was breaking the family. I realized then that their love had conditions, and I had finally violated them. The weeks that followed were brutal. The calls stopped. The messages went unanswered. Relatives reached out to tell me I was hurting my parents. Some friends didn't understand why I couldn't just keep the peace. I questioned myself constantly. I wondered if I was wrong, if freedom was worth this much pain. But something else happened, too. I felt calm for the first time in my life. I started writing again, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, just to breathe. I changed jobs to something less prestigious, but less suffocating. My income dropped. My peace grew. Months later, my mother called. She didn't apologize. Neither did I. We spoke carefully, like people learning a new language. Our relationship is different now, smaller, but real. I don't know if my parents will ever fully understand my choice, and I've accepted that they don't have to. Love that demands your silence is not love. Choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish, it makes you alive. I lost the version of myself they wanted, and I finally met the person I was always meant to be.